Classroom. We're going to do an overview right now, but one of the details about having Google Classroom is that you do need to have a Gmail account. So my first question, does everybody have a Gmail account? If you could answer in the chat. Yes, great, perfect. If you have a Gmail account through UOIT or Ontario Tech University, one thing to be aware of, you may be blocked. So you might have to use your personal Gmail if you do try to do that. Okay, so we're going to continue on. And I just want to go through an overview of what Google Classroom is, and then we're actually going to go into Google Classroom, and then we're going to come back where I'm going to go through an overview of how to create a classwork, and then I'm going to ask that you navigate through, and then we can discuss your thoughts about Google Classroom, etc. So first thing is Google Classroom is a learning management system. So I'm not sure how many of you have experience with Google Classroom. If you could let me know, how many of you actually use Google Classroom right now? And I'm looking at two screens because I have comments up on one section. So someone is working on it right now. Excellent. Someone just set it up. Perfect. Okay. I just want to quickly tell you here some details about Google Classroom. So some of the great things about Google Classroom is that it allows you to have consistent communication. You can create assignments. You can link those to resources as well, or embed or link resources on an assignment for students. And you can create rubrics right then and there, or upload rubrics to the assignments. So lots of different options there. And you can ask questions, etc. One of the great details I like is that you can organize and prioritize student work with due dates and calendar entries, and also the idea of integration with Google Suite, so the Google Forms, Calendar, Docs, etc. And I'm going to click on here. Just a couple things why you'd want to use it. Again, it's organizing and prioritizing. There's to-dos and assignment due dates, and all of that links up in very clear ways. And for students, they can also see all of their assignments in Google Calendar, which helps them to prioritize and organize. And second, there's topics as well. Yeah, I'm not sure, Sandy, you'll have to check your mic if or your, maybe if you want to go back out and in again. I'm not sure why that's, if you're not able to hear me. I took off my mic just in case that was the issue. I believe I'm still seeing others are being able to see, so I'm not sure if, I think it can I'm hoping most people can hear me. So the other thing that you can use Google Classroom for is assessments. And I really like the idea of formative assessments, so ongoing, and you can provide constructive feedback to assignments. So you could ask them to maybe submit something and then give them some feedback and they can resubmit again. Or you could ask a question, for example, and see where students are after you've taught some sort of concept. And the other idea is connected. So it is not only connected with Google Suite, but there's hundreds of other online apps that you can use. And I have a link down here. It's blocked for a second. But there's a link to the online apps. You'll see there if you want to click. And that will bring you to all of the different apps that actually link to Google Classroom. Okay, so right now I'm going to ask that each one of you could actually create a Google Classroom. So in order to do that, you will need to go to your Google, and I'm going to minimize my screen here and walk through in another window. Now, one thing I need to comment is, and I mentioned, if you have an Ontario Tech University account and try to do it that way, you may get blocked if you try to use Google Classroom. So I use my personal Gmail account. And then you can go down here. So I'm in my Gmail I go to my Google Apps and I go into Classroom here. Oh, thanks, Jeanette. So Sandy, I'm not sure if you saw that, but Jeanette thank you for providing that link. Logging out and coming back in really helped. So here you have Google Classroom, and you can select which Gmail. I have multiple Gmails, so I'm going to do my personal, because that's where I have saved most of the details. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out over here on this so we can see both of my screens. So when you look on the side here, you will see the Google Classroom main window. And I have a few classes here. If I expand this out, just so you see, it looks in this view right now. So I actually have set up a few classes, and this you can, so if you have multiple different classes, you can, you will see them here, whatever you've created. You also, if you want to be part of other classes, you do have an option of doing that, and that could be displayed here as well. So first and foremost, let's go and create a class. So hopefully everyone was able to go in and create. Did anyone have any issues? Yes. So, does anyone have any issues in actually getting to this point of Google Classroom? I'm going to assume silence is golden, so I'm going to say, hopefully, if you do have an issue, let us know. So no issues. Okay. So Leslie said you can also create a new Gmail email address if you don't want to share your personal. Yes, exactly. So I don't know if you noticed when I was logging in, I have multiple accounts. So this is the email account I use primarily for testing with Google Classroom. So I'm going to go to this this plus sign in the top right corner, and you see it's creating or joining a class. So right now, I could either join someone else's class or create a class. And for this purposes, I want to create a class. And you'll notice right away, it brings this sort of menu option. So, and this is because, from my understanding, that each school board, in order for you to be able to use Google or Google Classroom with students, that board needs to sign up for Google Suite for Education. And so one thing you'll notice is if you're, let's say you have access to different school boards, so you can see that some Google Classrooms might have more functionality or more options than others. So, but each board, each school will have to make sure that they are signed up for Google Suite for Education. And that has to do with the privacy and security protections that are important for students. So I just see this and I say I've read and continued. I've read and understand, and I continue. So when I'm creating a class, I just put in a class name. So let's say I'm doing intro to Scratch, because I'm doing that on Thursday. In terms of section, you could use one. For those of you that teach in secondary school, you could maybe use your period, for example, or your section code. I've seen different ways people do it. I'm going to just put one for now. And then the subject, so maybe this is computer science. And your room. So for online learning, one of the things you could do is, let's say you're meeting through Google Meet, for example, you could actually paste the link here for your Google Meet. So that could be your room. And if not, for those of you that have taught in schools, this obviously could be an actual classroom. So I'll create it. And then once you've created it, it'll take a moment and it'll bring you to this main screen. So this is your class that you've created. This is intro to class. And immediately you'll see this visual screen right here. You can actually change this image by selecting theme, and you can see different themes here. And you could maybe say you want to switch the theme to this, and then I select it, and then it'll change. Class code is very important to know, particularly when you are embedding to different apps. And obviously when you'll see when you need to invite students, etc. So on the main screen, we have these tabs at the top, which are stream, classwork, people, and grades. And then this little gear in the corner, which is your settings. So these are the main screens. I'm just curious, because I do know some people's views might be different. Do all of you see stream, classwork, people, and grades? If you could say yes, that would be great. Yes. For the others, thank you, Leslie. Wondering if the others are able to see. And Jeanette can see it as well. Great. Okay, so right now we have, so what's open right now is the stream. So stream is really about how you communicate to your students and to your class. I'm going to move this over for a second. So you can create and schedule announcements, you can respond to student posts, etc. So it's a great feature right there. I'm going to go into classwork because I'm just going to go into classwork. I'm going to create maybe an assignment or question, and then I want you to try and navigate. I'm going to give you some time to navigate around the screen, and then we can come back. So first, let's go into classwork here. And what you see is classwork is really where you're going to assign work. You may want to assign work to, or assignments to specific, to all students or to specific students or groups of students. You may have questions, for example. The other reason you might want to, or what you can do with assignments, is you can use topics to help organize it. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and I think that's a really important way for you to be able to help students organize and see their work. So I'm going to create a new assignment. Let's start with that first. So you can see here I can put a title in. So let's say I'm doing a flipped assignment. So I'm providing them some work ahead of time. I want them to complete a piece of some questions within a Word document that I've created, let's say. So I'm going to call it a flipped assignment because it's something I'm going to assign to them before we actually meet. The instructions, I would type those here. Please complete the attached questions and submit prior to class. Might be one way, actually, if you're doing a flipped classroom, to ensure that students are actually reviewing some of the material before class. Especially in a flipped classroom, that might be helpful. So one of the things you have here, which I think is great, is the add button. So you can add from your Google Drive in here. So I can go into my drive, or let's say you have a shared drive with your students, and you can go and click there. The other option is you can embed a link, and then you can add a file from your desktop, or you can add a YouTube video, so or another video URL. So those are two options there. And then the other option is you could actually create. So let's say I knew what kind of questions I want. I haven't created the document. I could go right into Forms and create that right here. And then it brings me into Forms, and I can start typing out my assignment details here. And I want to ask maybe one question. you know, what is the name of a Scratch character? And instead, you could do multiple choice. You know, there's lots of different options if you've never used forms. And I could then, this is now saved. And you could actually send it off or just embed it here. So going back here, my forms are there. And then I could say this is for, when you say it's for, it's which class is it for? So we're in Intro to Scratch, but if I wanted to add this also to my Intro to Coding, I could do that as well. Say I have multiple classes, so you have the same class, but just different students, and you've set up different classes. You could add them all here if you wanted to do the same assignment. Now, right now, I don't have any students in here, but you could actually assign things to all your students or to individual students. And I think that's a really great way to do some personalized learning. And you could assign points, so, or make it ungraded. And you can assign a due date. And this part I really love because it links so nicely with Google Calendar. And I don't have any topics set up, but you could actually start creating your topics here. But I do suggest that when you do create a class, you consider creating topics right away. And then you have your rubric that you can create. So I can create a rubric. I'm going to move this over. I can reuse rubrics, or I can import a rubric from Sheets. And I'll just show you what the rubric looks like. So, and this is just one way of creating a rubric, or so it's a nice little option right there. I'm going to close this off. I'm going to discard this, and then you can assign. And you could either assign now or schedule it or save it for later. So I'm going to hit assign. And I believe it when it does assign, I've actually set a date. So it's got the due date immediately, and it goes in here. So one thing I mentioned is one way to organize is to create topics. So you can see that right at the bottom. Some people do this by units. You know, some people do it by beginning of the term, midterm. I think mostly I have seen people do this by units. Has anyone got any other ideas of how they might use topics? Any thoughts? You couldn't sort units. You could sort units and big ideas, exactly. So when you create a topic, you can have multiple topics here. Let's say I'm going to say block coding. I'm just going to add different ones. I'm going to say logic. I'm going to say characters. And maybe these are the things that I would be teaching about. I've never taught computer science, but perhaps this is, you know, some of the things you might go through. In that particular case, you can then drag this flipped assignment into a characters, for example, and put it in there. T, I don't know who T is, but I can actually hear you. Did you want to ask a question? Okay. Okay, so that is pretty much a lot of what you can do within your classwork. So you can then have these different topics, create assignments, quiz assignments. So here's another option here where you can put in a blank form, you can grade it, etc. You can have a question, material, or what I really like is this idea of reusing posts. So that really helps if you have something that you've done before that you really liked and you thought it was a good assignment, and you can just reuse it here from past Google classes that you've created. And then, of course, you can see your Google calendar here at any time. And then there's also the Google Class Drive. So whatever you create within your Google Classroom will be automatically saved in here. And this is in your Google Drive, and it gets saved in your personal drive here. Just as you can see here, it's under My Drive. So Leslie is saying that she's using subjects with backslash, so math, multiplications, English reading, chapter 1. That's a really great way to use those topics and to really, or I'm using subjects with a backslash. English reading, okay. So including my ability to type, apparently. Sorry, I kept getting booted out and everything gets reset. I'm not sure. So that might be, you're getting booted out of Google Meet. I'm not sure why that happens. That might be a feature of Google Meet. I've only used Google Meet for these sessions. We're quite familiar with Adobe Connect and Skype. But we've decided to use Google Meet because a lot of people use Google Platform. So you may have some issues. Be recognizing that from an online learning perspective. Obviously, I had some issues starting the session. Leslie, could you tell us a little bit about using subjects with a backslash? Can you mention that, if you don't mind? I can't hear you. Are you talking? Maybe. No, I can't hear you, Leslie. So if you want to type it, Leslie, or maybe sometimes if you select your microphone, that can help. I wanted to give you this brief overview. So this is very brief. One of the things I do want to mention here is the idea that Google Classroom has this ability to make assignments, to sort those assignments and help students to remain organized. It links up to Google Calendar and different functions. I'm going to go back into the main screen here for a second. Stream. Oh, old. Hold on, okay. Leslie's gonna work on her microphone and then I'm gonna keep on going here for 1 second. And this is the main screen for your classroom right here. It's the stream, and it's really how you communicate and what you communicate to your students. So one of the things Jeanette mentioned in her presentation is the ability to be consistent with your communications. And I found that one great thing about when you want to communicate is you can actually select past communications. So I clicked a button. It takes a couple minutes, but I could actually, if I'm sharing something, I could actually take from previous different posts, for example. And that really, you know, and it's having that consistent voice, that consistent message. The other option is you can actually send it to specific students. So I haven't set up my students in this particular class, but if I take you to an existing class, which I want to do right now, just to show you a few more things, you can see that. So I have shown how to create a class, going over just some of the basic features, the stream. I did a little bit of classwork, but really right now I want you to actually go in and play and to see some of the options here that are available for creating a class and what options you have available. If you have specific questions, if you want to just type it in there. And I mentioned that I wanted to be able to show you what a student's view would look like. So right now I have another class, and I'm going to go actually to my main screen. So this is my main screen right now. and each one of you might want to create a class. If you want to see what a student looks like, I can either give you an email address and I can demonstrate it. It would be this email address right here. So if anyone's interested, you can assign to this particular student. And I'm going to pull up this student's view. This is one of those generic Gmail accounts I've created. And I'm going to pull up the student's view so you can see how it may appear to a student if you are to create an assignment, let's say specifically to that student, or a question, etc. So before I move on, or before you start playing, I just want to know, is there any specific questions you have before I go into the student account? And is there anything specifically here? Because there's a lot to see here, but I want you to go in and work through and sort of navigate and try and test. And then we'll come back, and if there's any questions, or we can discuss it as a group. And I'm hoping at the end we can sort of open up our mics and sort of discuss so that we can get everyone's understanding. A lot of people come with some experience with Google Classroom, others may have less, but sharing that is a great thing to be able to do. So are there any questions before I ask you to sort of delve in on your own and start discovering everything else other than what we went through? Can I get maybe a yes from people? Can teacher know when students access assignments? Oh, that's good. So can students know when students log in and access assignments? Well, let's take a look. I'm going to go in here for my math class. I think sometimes it's better to sort of demonstrate that. And I have an assignment that's coming up, and I've assigned it to Jaden, which is that email address. So I'm actually going to go into Jaden's account right now so you can see. So here I see that Jaden sees this is his classrooms. If I go into to-do, Jaden can see what his to-dos are. And let's say he's going to open up this assignment. So this is the first time he's opening it up. He's in it right now. Let's see what I see on the other side. So I'm going to go right into the assignment to see if perhaps it's under there. And oops, testing. So it really doesn't tell me that the student has actually viewed it. And I know that the student is actually viewing it at this particular time. So that is something that I don't know if but let's see here. Yeah, so I don't see that they've actually viewed it. But if the student is, let's see here, you could see any comments they do or any private comments, but it's assigned to them. I'm going to come here, I'm going to say looked at assignment. And I'm going to post that. This is a private comment, so the whole class wouldn't see this, sorry. So going back here, oh, sorry, I didn't click. So I went into his assignment, and I can see the private comment that was made, but I can see that there's a date on here. So I know that they went in and made a private comment on this date. I get the message that says can't invite student from the, oh, Jeanette, where are you? So I'm not sure what account you're using. Is it through a board or?
Yeah, it's the DDSB.
Yes. So remember that comment that came up right at the beginning? You saw that screen that said you need it specific to a board or to a school. So unfortunately, because I'm not in that particular, or Jaden, this email is a generic, it won't work within your board Google or Google Classroom. It's only the students within your Google Classroom. So that is sort of the way that they're able to manage the security and privacy of the students in that board. So I just want to actually, I'm going to, so one thing here is to answer your question, Leslie, I didn't see that they had logged in or viewed it. However, I did see that they were able to create a comment. I have another student here, Rebecca, and I've assigned Rebecca the same one. I'm actually going to log in just to see if Rebecca can access. Ooh, you know what, that's going to take me a little while. Let me create another assignment and see if I actually see, because I think part of the problem is because I created a comment, Leslie, I was not able to, I don't know if I was able to see if they just were able to view it. So let me create another assignment here. I'm going to go in my math class. I'm going to go create another assignment. And this is the testing view of student. So I do apologize, Jeanette. I guess I can't let you see the student view for yours, but if there's something you specifically want me to do, just let me know. I'm going to add, I just put instructions here, testing. And I'm going to assign it. So one other great thing is you can assign it specifically to one student. That's something I really love about Google Classroom, is the ability to assign to specific groups or to a whole class. So if you are, let's say, doing guided groups, let's say you have some sort of lesson and you've split it up into different groups, and you recognize that one particular group may need a few more resources to help them, or you want to ask one group a different question, then this would allow you to do that. Or if you wanted to add or ask one particular or assign something to one particular student, you can do that. So I like that functionality in Google Classroom. So I'm just going to add in here, put it under data management, and I'm going to add a due date of the 22nd. And I'm going to assign right now. And I've added it, make sure I've added it to Jaden. The reason I want to add it here is I want to see the moment. Okay, so this is testing assignment. And I want to see if and one thing is you can sort, some of these assignments have they haven't been sorted in topics. So if I put this under data management, so I can see specifically what is under data management, the assignments. Or with topics. Topics are very good for organizing, not just for you, but for students. So going back into Jaden's, look at his classes. So I'm just going to refresh to see, okay, if he has his Google Classroom, he knows something is coming up. But if I want to see my to-dos, I can go here. And interesting, I don't see that assignment specifically here. So let's go back. So I actually clicked in here, and immediately on the first communication page, I see the assignment here. And I click in this. So now Jaden has viewed this assignment. I see when the teacher has created it, and Jaden has viewed this. So I'm going to test to see. I'm going to go back out. Jaden has viewed it. Let's see if I can see whether Jaden has viewed this. I'm going to click on Jaden, and I see that it was assigned. And if I click on the student, I don't see that they actually opened it. Let's sort by state. Yeah. So just to answer your question, long way around, but I'm not. You can't see if they view it, but if they comment on it, that would show up. So I hope right now you're navigating through different options in Google Classroom. If any of you are able to add something to Jaden's account, that other account I have, I know that Jeanette, you're not able to because of your specific access. But if I can see in the to-do if anybody has assigned it here. So I'm going to let you play around. I'm going to give it, just keep on playing. If there's any questions, you can ask away. I didn't go through everything because I did want to make sure that you did get the opportunity to sort of discover on your own. And I did want to show the class work just because that is something that I think is very beneficial to see that particular part and know how to do assignments, and particularly how to organize with topics, etc. So I'm gonna say maybe we'll come back at around 2:35, like 10 minutes. So if you want to play around for 10 minutes, if you have any questions or if there's anything not working, you can put it in the chats and I'll try to respond to anything there. And if there's something that I didn't go through and you want to see, then I can check that out. Please, yes. I will, I'm not sure if, do you have the option of just going directly in and presenting? I'm going to stop sharing, okay? And I'm going to let you, Leslie, you can go right in and, or yeah, Jeanette, you can go in and present. Okay.
Okay, so my question is, so this is a classroom created by somebody else, and you can see how she has like science, language, math. So how did she create those topics or sections?
So what she would have done is she actually created one class, and then, so she didn't create like a science class and a math class, she just created one class, and then she created a topic for each. So science, she created a topic, language, she created a topic, math, she created a topic. And so that's a great way if like, I don't know which, Law of 1812. So yeah, see grade 5, if you have one class, one group of students, this is a great way. You don't have to create multiple classes. You create one, and then your topics are specifically what subject you're teaching. And then she has other learning.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to stop.
No, that's great, Jeanette. I like that. I mean, there's various different ways that you can use topics. I wish I could show you the student's view for that particular class. Unfortunately, I can't. But I'll go into one of the classes I have, which is here. And I only created sort of one, as you can see, so it's not sorted very nicely. But I have one topic here, data management. So if the student wanted to see what was under data management, they can go particularly here. The other ones are all unsorted. So one problem with this as a student, if you don't put in topics, is you can see it's like, okay, where do I begin? Where do I look? what am I supposed to do here? So having topics really helps them organize themselves, and then they can see within their own Google Calendar, they get used to sort of viewing that. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I think we've lost your screen present after I stole it.
Oh, my apologies. I was just showing something. My apologies there. Let me go back. Gotta go. I have so many screens open right now. Just 1 second. And present now. Okay, let me go here. I want to pull up my Google Classroom here. Actually, I had the slides on here, and then over here I had the class. So what I was mentioning is that with, this is my classroom, and then, sorry, I have so many windows open. I think I dropped out of, I think Jaden's disappeared. So just let me open up Jaden's again. By the way, Jaden is my son, so although this is not his official email, I use it in that way. So what I was mentioning here is, let's look in a math class. I set up this math class. As a student, Jaden would look at this and see his different communications on the front page. He'd come in here. On the left, he'd see what's due coming up. He could view actually everything that's due in this way, or if he clicks on this, he can see a particular assignment that's due that particular day, or sorry, when due today. I made assignment due today. In this class, I've opened up communicating with everybody, so this student could actually share or comment, and it'll appear for everybody. But you can close that off. But to talk about the point that you were showing with that one teacher and how they sorted, here's a bad example of not using topics, because look at how these assignments, you know, appear for the student. There's no, it's just a big sort of, excuse my language, but a dump of assignments here or questions, and no real organization. So I would argue that using topics is really important, especially if you're going to use Google Classroom regularly. And the other reason is because of this Google Calendar here, you can actually see, this is their calendar view, and they can see upcoming assignments, see at the bottom, and if they had others that were coming. And it just, I think it allows students to start thinking about organizing and prioritizing what needs to be worked on and when. And like if I had multiple assignments, they would all appear here and I could see everything. So the view is great that it integrates with Google Classroom. And you can see here that, but again, that point of having no topics, it's really disorganized for a student, and it doesn't help them to sort of understand what's next, or what goes under what topic, or what subject, or what unit. Thanks for the question, Jeanette. Oh, once the student has completed, does this come off? Okay, so Leslie asked, once the student has completed and submitted work, does this come off deleted from this assignment or due section? So it does, my understanding, so these ones, I don't have any that have actually been completed. My apologies, I should. So you know what I'll do is I'll go into an assignment for Jaden. And I will view that assignment and let us turn in and turn it in. Oop, it didn't like that. So let's add something. Add a file. I'm just answering your question here. I think it's Leslie's question. So I will put in something about soils. Okay, so it's been added. And so I put that in and I'm going to turn it in. Oops, sorry, clicking in here. I'm going to turn this in. Ooh, it's giving me an error, that assignment. It's possible because it's from a long time ago, 2018. Let me go to a newer assignment. My apologies. Let's go into the new assignment that I just made. And I'm going to mark as done. You didn't attach work, so your teacher will see. Okay, so we're going to mark as done. So now if I go in view and I refresh, I still see this assignment here. If I go into classroom, I can see this assignment in my view, but I see that it was turned in. Now, this is the student's view. So the student has turned it in. This is what they see. It's still on their screen. But let's say now I go in as the teacher into that class, and I see that one student over here has turned in the work. Turned it in, so that's great. Let's give them a grade here. 90%, great job. And it's saving. And I'm going to say this, it's turned in, it's done, and I want to return now. Oops, sorry. Let me cancel this for 1 second. I want to go here. This is actually a Gmail. You can message them. Sorry, I was just checking that out. You can actually email them. So let's just say, and that's really good if you want to say, hey, you need to reminders, etc. If you also use email. I'm going to return now. Student will be notified and can check any grade you've left. So I'll put here good work. The assignment has now been turned in. I have viewed the assignment. I have graded the assignment. Let me go back into my view as a teacher. Now I see that in here. I'm going to go back in here just to see. So I can see this. It's still in my screen here. Let's see what it looks like in Jaden's view. Going into my class work. Let's look at the main screen. So I still see it here. I see that I got a private comment. I see my grade. And it looks like it still appears in my assignments. However, I believe that you can, so it still shows up in the assignment list. So it looks like their assignments are still showing up here. I don't see in my particular functionality, there's no way to sort of, no way to remove out these or change them. So that's a feature I think may not be the best, is that you don't have the ability to sort of take it out once it's done. Let me just see the comments here. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So once a student is completed and submitted, does this come off? So it does look like, from my view, that it doesn't come off, that it's actually still shown here. And even as the teacher, so the teacher could delete it and take it off. So that it no longer appears, for example, if this assignment's done. I'm not sure they'd want to necessarily delete it though. So I think one thing this doesn't do it, but I think one thing I would like to see is maybe it says completed, and I don't see that. So that's something I think that I don't like so much about this, but I think one thing about this though is that you do have the ability to, I want to make sure here, do you have the ability to order your dates? No, but what you can do is you can move your assignments up or down, or questions up or down. So you can move assignment 7 up here. Oh, actually, it's not allowing me to move it up or down. I think it's maybe because I'm in general, but if I moved it into particular sections, like topics, yeah. So if it's in the generic list, it sort of sorts it by, that's a good thing to know too. So if you don't use topics, it sort of sorts it by assignment and question, but ordering it, I'm not able to order it as, oh, I was able to order it, sorry, I just hadn't done it properly. Oh, I can order it, sorry, the moment that I put it into a topic. I can sort it up and down. So any other thoughts? So now that you've had some time to actually go through, I know I've answered some questions. I'm just wondering if there's any other questions or thoughts. The one thing I want to ask is, how many of you looked over the grade section? And any thoughts on the grade section? Since 2018, this is a new feature. So I think even in early in 2019, this was not, grades was not there, or at least it wasn't there for some views. I didn't have it prior. I know I didn't have it in 2018, and I didn't see it in the beginning of 2019. Now it is a view that's available. I'm wondering if any of you, what you think about this, having this grades available. Any thoughts from the group? Oh, you know what it looks like? It looks like Jeanette and Leslie, we're the only ones here. So Jeanette, it's a good idea to be transparent. I'm the other people in this group, so. Right.
I was gonna take the mic off.
Yeah, it's just the 3 of us, guys. So yeah, even though it says 5, those other ones are just me. I think I lost a few at the beginning, and I apologize to those, but because of the issues I had to start. But yeah, so what other thoughts do you guys have about the Google Classroom in general?
It's so I find it less organized, but I think it just takes time to get used to compared to like a D2L environment. I think it's just once you're familiar with something, it's just it takes a bit of time to get used to making the switch.
Right.
I like though that the post piece allows you to share old stuff, because my understanding is with D2L, you can basically upload the same course again, but Google Classroom you can't. Is that like you have to add all the assignments manually, or can you transfer? I'm not sure.
My understanding is actually you are able to go in and like all your classes are archived,
Okay.
and you could actually, I think if I'm correct, you can restore or copy.
Okay.
And
And then
so you,
basically just, okay, so if you copy, then do you have to just clear out the kids and add new kids, or will it automatically clear out kids when you copy?
let's see. Well, this one doesn't, they all have 0 students in it, wouldn't you know? Wrong one to test. I'm just going to create, can I add a student? No, because it's already closed. Um, my, I, I mean, I don't want to say yes, but from my understanding, because I've watched, personally, I have never used Google Classroom at managing a class. I'll just say that when I was teaching, because I'm at the Ontario Tech right now, but when I was teaching, we used Moodle. I didn't use Google Classroom, but I have given an overview and I've watched several different tutorials. So one of the things I do remember is that you could restore from existing classes. You can there was one of those abilities that you could just copy the information and create a new. So this copy function, I did see something along the lines that I could copy, I can create it. Let's say I can say it's grade 11 chemistry again, and I just copy it over. My understanding is that it doesn't copy the students over, like it just sort of creates a new one. But I don't believe that it copies over all assignments and announcements.
Okay. Oh, not
So
the assignments. Okay.
yes, but what I understand, and I do apologize that I'll investigate this further. It's Jeanette, right?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Yes, you are.
I'll investigate this further and just add it to that Padlet that we have as a group, okay?
Awesome.
But
Thank you.
my understanding is that you can just restore it, but it doesn't necessarily copy over everything.
Okay.
And so if I go back into classes now, I can see that it was copied over, and none of the things were copied over. Now, I didn't have any students in there, but I did have assignments, and that nothing was copied over.
Okay.
But one thing I thought is that you could reuse posts. So past assignments that you've created, you can reuse. You can create from old assignments.
Okay.
So I can see I've archived these, but so I can use an archived assignment. Select, and then I create new copies, and I'm going to reuse. This one's giving me an issue. Let's go here. Let's say demo purposes. I have this. So there is an issue here. My understanding is you can actually repost from old assignments. Oh, I know why. It's because I didn't actually have any assignments in there. So that's why. I'm like, why can't I see this? But yeah, I didn't have any. So this is one I can, but all of my archived, I don't have in the other ones. I don't think I have a lot of assignments. I was just testing. Yeah.
Now, do they automatically archive, or do you have to manually archive?
You manually have to archive. That I know.
Okay.
Yeah. But my understanding is what gets copied over, it's almost like a generic, it's just sort of the name and a new folder. But I will investigate that a little bit further because I haven't actually tested that. And so I will let you know about that for sure, Jeanette. I'm interested in knowing that as well.
Awesome. Thank you. That's my biggest thing, is that we oftentimes do teach the same course and do want to reuse at least some of the material. So I'm just looking for ways to make that process easier, to reuse material and get it uploaded quickly and easily.
Right. No, I hear exactly what you're saying, because if I think about even grade 11 chemistry, and I wish I had everything in there that I could just test it, but I would think about, there's several different maybe assignments or even questions or communications that I would just want to be in there and ready to go, and copied over. So I totally hear what you're saying. I think that that would be a good function. What else? Any other? One thing I like is the to-do. Now, because I use this as testing, mine is not well organized by any means. But one thing is that I really like, I don't know about you, but with some students, I really find the need to help them learn how to organize and prioritize and, you know, sort of chunk out their work. What do I need to do now? What do I need to think about? I have these assignments coming up. What should I work on? And having this to-do option here, but in particular, having this calendar view, I think is essential in helping them sort of manage what is coming up with everything together. And that's something I like in particular. Okay, it looks like everybody is sort of done. Is there any final thoughts?
Now, quick question about that to-do list.
Yeah.
How is that sorted? Is it sorted by date and then, I guess, alphabetical if there's no date attached?
Yeah, so let's go back here for the to-do. So all of mine don't have due dates, but it would be the most current to, so this ones are all like no due dates, as you can see, so they go up the top. And actually, it goes by order, from my understanding.
Okay. Thanks.
So what do we hear? March. Okay, so actually, so it is the order, if you can see here, is if you look at my bottom of the screen.
Yep.
This is due April 22nd. This is due April 16th, and that's the order right now. So it's going in future date down to most current date.
So the most, yeah, that seems backwards.
That seems backwards to me, and I wouldn't. So let's, yeah. But I could sort this by particular classes, archive classes, but I can't change this. But let's see if I can. Yeah, I can't change this sorting order. But look at this. If you can see the dates that I have in here, it's due April 22nd and due, so it's descending. I don't like that personally.
Now, is that because of when they were posted? Like it's just organizing them by date posted, and one of them just happens to have more time to complete, or?
It's a good question.
I'm wondering.
Yeah. Oh, this one, testing view of students, I can tell you that actually. So the testing view of students, flipped classroom, you're right. So when it goes in, those ones were created. I tested the calendar last.
Right, okay.
And tested flipped classroom, so it's when it goes in. That's not a great feature.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, and so there's certain things that I can say that work well. I like the fact that they have the to-do. The sorting order, that's not optimal, but the calendar view does show it in order, obviously, because it's in a calendar view. So I do like that part about it, for example. Okay, any other questions? Because I think we got to go back to the main group.